Okay, you need to tell me what's this assignment?
No, keep stopping.
Guys, hey,
What's the assignment? I don't know anything
I'm
about
sorry.
it.
yeah, introduce it so that before you.
I'm the facilities manager for Florida A&M. And we want this new school of architecture. Tell me.
Anybody on the team?
Basically what the project is that we've been assigned individual like positions, like we have a client, we have an architect, we have somebody representing the consultants and engineers and an architect, and so we've all been assigned different positions in the job of programming a new building for the FAMU School of Architecture, which is on this exact same site, but the building is not here.
Okay.
And so
Great.
this video is because we've got the process, what we've done, not the complete programming packet, but the physical process which we've gone through.
Okay.
Didn't seem to like full screen mode.
You don't need the full screen, just go with what you have.
Yeah, but it just,
The song is.
Is it too loud?
there you go. Oh, it's just lagging.
You have another program running? You got a QuickTime?
This is the first rule of doing anything with technology.
Check it out for.
It was working, I just realized that.
Was that particular computer?
No, his computer mine. His doesn't have the connector, which is why we're using her computer. Mine doesn't have one either.
What kind of a connection do you need?
I need an HDMI port for mine to work. And he needs his HDMI.
For the Mac?
For Mac?
I got one right here.
Dad, they got one.
There's always war stories about architects coming to presentations with their, used to be their slide projectors and a plug, looking around the room, and there's no plug, or there's no we always go and see where
We're like, no, I think it's coming.
That's serious.
There's a famous story about Ben Thompson. You guys don't know who Ben Thompson is. Anyway, he was a big time architect out of Boston. He was trying to get a job, commission, being interviewed. He came in with a big tray of slides, and he immediately dropped all the slides on the floor
Over the carousel.
out of the carousel. And he did that deliberately because he wanted the whole meeting to go from being the typical kind of meeting where everybody's just showing slides and talking about their work to being kind of a more informal, more, you know, person-to-person kind of dialogue, and he got the job. Yeah.
Lots of times in a presentation like this, you want to stand out. And,
Well, it looks like they picked up slides and ready to go.
back when, boards and stuff, I remember I was campus architect for a while, and this one group had a project we were doing, and this one group came in with a television set and a VCR, I don't know if you know what that is. And played they had a consultant that couldn't be there, supposedly.
Wow.
And they made a tape of the consultant talking about how he would approach the building, you know, his input to the building. Blew everyone away. Oh my God, it was so creative.
What's happening here?
I'm waiting for you guys.
Good.
No, don't wait for us. We're just killing time.
But it's a matter.
Did you get permission from Iron Man?
Are you ready?
Hello, my name is Shanique Palmer, and I'm a client. I represent the student body and the university. The client's responsibility is to establish the lines of communication and to determine how and when meeting times will be called, how contracts will be made, and how recordings of meetings will be kept.
Hello, my name is Annie Williamson, and I'm the programmer. I am responsible for conducting efficient literature searches, employ active learning skills to conduct diagnostic interviews, record meaningful data during the walkthrough study, develop comprehensive space inventories, and conduct systematic observation. Basically, I'm supposed to address the user needs.
Hello, my name is Aaron Chambers. I represent the contractor. The contractor is responsible for gathering the site data and reporting any site issues that may arise over the course of the project. The contractor will be in charge of researching and contacting the manufacturers of the material that will be used in the new SLA building. After submittal of the design scheme and plans, provide the financial feasibility study reports, and be responsible for the lead documentation and recording the material that will be salvaged, recycled, and wasted.
Hello, my name is Daniel Sanford. I represent the architecture firm Hired. The architect's job is to work with the client and the programmer and to act as a liaison between the client and the contractor, as well as construction documents for the new School of Architecture building. After the programming portion of the process, I will begin initial designs based on the recommendations developed in part with the programmer.
Just hit cancel.
This is the personnel interconnectivity chart. This is the original master timeline for the project. Prior to the beginning of the process of programming the project, the programmer and the client owner develop a list of stakeholders to be involved. One organizational method is to form a project programming committee with representatives from the stakeholder groups. In this case, the committee consists of the university, faculty staff, student representatives, including one lower division student, one upper division student, and one graduate student, and the programming consultant, and the architect and engineer. Good buildings don't just happen. They are planned to look and perform well. In order to have a good building, in the pre-design process, the program has 5 steps to be concerned about: stating the problems, establishing the goals, determining the needs, collecting and analyzing the facts, and uncovering and testing concepts. As architects, we are taught to take a holistic view of the problem and go beyond the sphere of direct influences to explore the possibilities. However, going too far afield increases the prospects of irrelevant information. Architects are also taught to bring out order out of chaos, establish order before it. To get to the heart of the matter, there must be a filtering process that brings out only the major aspects of the information. In essence, making sense out of nonsense. Programmer has to first define the problem. In this case, function, economy, time, and form are the problems. In the program redesign of the FAMU School of Architecture, we focus more on the depth of time. What will the technology be like in 20, 30 years from now? From that, we came to a solution about what we think the program should be like and how the spaces of the building should feel like. In order to complete the program designed in a timely manner, we developed a work plan which consists of 6 phases. Each have about 2 weeks span to gather the information to be completed. This program report is a breakdown about how much we completed over the course of the programming and shows whether or not we are on track with keeping up with our work plan. Even though each phase has 2 weeks to get the information complete, sometimes we found ourselves overlapping by going back and massaging the program. The group had a series of meetings to discuss and entertain problems and solutions. The first meeting dealt with tasks and data gathering. The second had to do with analysis of data. The third with course programming. And finally, the fourth with the fine-tuning of the program. The client required the building to be LEED certified. We went over a series of design philosophies and practices and was able to attain a LEED Gold certification. We also looked at the UNF College of Education buildings, energy saving measures, recycled materials, and natural light, which are employed throughout the building. Demand control ventilation was achieved by designing dual duct terminal boxes for all densely occupied spaces. Potable water use was reduced by 39% by including low flow water closets and faucets, as well as waterless urinals. This precedent displays an example we hope to accomplish with the LEED Gold certification. Our central focus is to enhance the performance of the new improved FAMU School of Architecture. This example depicts the light access into the atrium and utilizes shading devices to control the amount of light that affects the southern facade of the building. There are openings to allow natural air ventilation to help cut down on electricity usage. These are some of the ideas we're implementing in our program. In this precedent of Syracuse University School of Architecture, there is a combination of high-tech as applied to the physical building, as well as materials used by the students. In the next phase, the program assembled questionnaires that were given to a number of students in the FAMU School of Architecture. They wanted to find out how students felt about the current building and ask questions about how they would feel if certain features were added. When doing the site analysis, you notice that there's a large western exposure and a steep slope running east to west. We would also like to include the natural vegetation and character of the surrounding neighborhood. This is Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim Museum located in New York. This president places emphasis on the central space to reinforce the idea of community and interactions between people. In addition, there are opportunities where we can also place natural elements such as green walls or greenery hanging from the railing on each level. The future of business technology. He is the future of business technology. In today's society, technology is very dynamic and it's always evolving. We want to design a building that's very dynamic, not only in form, but also in technology. Therefore, we're inspired by the Iron Man 3 movie. Coincidentally, Iron Man is the architect in the movie. We envision the building to be fully equipped with pop-up images and interfaces such as these shown. This is a space mapping diagram that's developed from research in cooperation with the programmer and architect. All media circulation revolves around a central atrium representing community that is connected with a hyphen at one end. This is the space plan realized in 3D with a connection to MLK Boulevard. This is the site plan merged with the space plan. A fresh approach to comfort, flexibility, and style. The student lines will include space planning to provide students, staff, and faculty, allowing with a variety of seating options that allow the space to take on many different functions. The students' lounge concept design includes an urban, modern space through the creative use of architectural elements and updated furniture. Warm and inviting atmosphere will be created through the sensible use of warm colors. Power sources will be added to the floor throughout the lounge to provide energy for electronic devices. A coffee shop and vendor spaces will be within the student lounge to provide a quick coffee and food on the go. Dry eraser boards will be added to help creative juices flow for student collaboration. While on the other side, a relaxation room with a pool table and television will be provided. Studio space. Undergrad studio spaces will be different from graduate level studios. With the undergrad students, we want to emphasize the working atmosphere that is open. This allows students to interact with each other more often. The teacher and the student relationship will be emphasized through this open space environment. First year studio space. The future of architecture will change tremendously. But we will believe that it is imperative that everybody will have to know how to hand draw and to make models from scratch. Computer screens. We envision a large computer touchscreen that is interactive for students and teachers to operate together in class within the classroom setting. Graduate level studio space. Graduate studios will be fully equipped with all the latest high-tech devices. An interior green wall. This green wall will be used as a teaching tool inside the building. Green wall will also help with cooling the interior spaces on hot days, saving energy and helping protect the walls themselves from the sun and weather damage. Library presence. These libraries provide bright and cheerful places to absorb yourself in a book in an all-encompassing manner and allow the user to discover what manner they study best at. Gallery space. The purpose of a gallery space should be based on the concept of a gallery, meaning that it's driven by ideas rather than your subject matter. We also want to create a warm and inviting space that showcases the talent of students and teachers alike. Small cities will help visitors to feel comfortable while sitting down and admiring the work or holding a small conversation with others. Lecture rooms. This idea was created by Apple back in 2011. However, the products have been mass-produced as of late. But with the direction and speed of technology, it's likely there will be interactive tabletops even within our own home. Therefore, this technology will be useful, especially in lower division architecture studios, in which will help save on costs of materials. Additionally, students will have the freedom to use this kind of technology, which will enhance their learning experiences and prepare them for what's to come in the future careers. Holographic lecture rooms. People are drawn to large images, and being able to have a model pop up right at your desk makes the learning process more interactive. It also helps students focus on the learning process, which is at hand. Space allocation. The following is a list of spaces broken down by research and agreed upon square footages. Building materials. Aerated output concrete and aluminum in part make up the exterior. The AAC is fire and sound resistant and has a high U value, and both aluminum and AAC are made from recycled materials. Steel structure. Steel is used as the interior structure and some interior embellishments. Steel is highly recyclable. Brick. Brick is used on the exterior of the building to relate to the context. Space allocation. The following is a list of spaces broken down by research and agreed upon square footages.
Can I get the group to come up to the front so we can talk to you about it? And can somebody turn the light on, please?
Go against the wall there.
No, I appreciate all the effort in making this into a video production, really, but what I'm missing is the ability to talk to you while you're presenting and to hear individuals and their take on it rather than a narrated, scripted thing, which in many cases just reading what's on the screen is kind of annoying to keep hearing what I'm reading and seems to be kind of an opportunity to say more than what's on the screen, to kind of embellish it with additional information or additional opinion or something. So yeah, I'm sure you do.
Let me say something about how you started off. That was very dynamic. Okay. And you set up an expectation. I expected your presentation to be like that. And then it became static. It just like ends it.
Yeah.
I think all the parts are there. Some of it is a little bit too detailed, and I think more summation could happen. I think you've got an idea there that sort of gets lost. You know, you wanna when you do a presentation like this, you want folks to buy into what you're trying to do. Okay, so you started talking about all of this, you know, how we're going to do it, and all that's okay. But then when you got into the actual building, you didn't, you know, it seemed like the most important thing to you was that the building, is what I got from it, was that the building be LEED certified. If it'd be a bad building, it'd be LEED certified. Okay? You know, it could be a box that meets all the lead requirements, and nobody wants to go in there because it's a bad building. So what was, and I can't imagine an architect in today's climate and not saying, we're gonna try and make this some kind of a LEED building. You know, there's kind of obligatory things. Would you not want to relate to the context? Would you not want to relate to the slope? You know, look, sure you're going to do that. It's kind of like when I give a student a grade, and they're not happy with the grade, and they come in and they say, "I worked so hard." Well, did you come to me and say, "I didn't work hard at all"? That's expected of me. Okay? Then we separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay, you worked real hard, but it's not, it doesn't merit in it. It merits to be. Okay? So I think that taking what you've done and really, prioritizing what's really important about this building that's going to set it apart from all the other buildings. So if it's this idea of community and making a place where everyone can gather, I think that's what you framework everything else around, and you explain how each of these pieces are going to achieve that. Okay, so what does that mean, community? It means places to meet. It means places to work. What is a community? And then here's our community places, the lounge, the library, and you explain how it helps reinforce your big ideas. Then I'm understanding what you're trying to do. The LEED stuff and all of that is icing on the cake. Okay? So you had everything. I think you just didn't quite have it prioritized. It was like each piece was the same value. And I think that you need to get the job, you need to set yourself up above everyone else. So that's my basic opinion of what you've done. You set it up to be this great thing. I'm expecting all sorts of whiz-bang stuff, and all of a sudden I'm turning pages and reading pages. So that stuff could almost be after the fact. You make the statement, tell me why I gotta hire you guys, because this is really the best thing that's gonna happen to the campus, the School of Architecture. And then you go, oh yeah, and there's also this obligatory kind of stuff. Okay? So that's
you could almost do a program, and I totally agree with what Mike's saying, that is a very brief document that really captures the essence, the big ideas, the spirit of the place, the kind of place you're making, the central theme of the building, and really provides a strong argument for that. And then the appendix has all the space data sheets and all the, the pro forma kind of stuff that somebody needs to have. So what I'm missing here is a lot of emphasis on what is this place overall? What's it like? What's going to be its image, or what's it going to be it as a place? And that's really what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, and boy, you really set it up with the whole
you got us excited.
And so you need, if that's what you're going to put up there, you need to make a relationship to that immediately, not later on. Oh, by the way, we're in a completely new age. We're in the information age, and we can now do this, that, and the other, and that's what you want to bring to the foreground. And you recognize that, and you can engage that. Okay?
Yeah.
I think we'll shortlist them. I don't know. They're going to have to come back.
But this is not their final day. They're submitting to me a document. This was meant to be an explanation of their process.
Based on their front thing, the document should walk into your office.
Yeah,
and sit down on the seat.
Robot delivery.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah. No, this is the one, the final presentation. We had, seven presentations. This was number 7. And they were the only ones that did it completely as a video. We have combinations of videos and presentations and other
You know,
kinds.
if you're gonna do a video, really, what is the advantage of a video? Okay, it's dynamic. It's not a book. So you're, and that's why that front end was really great. It was a video, and then you segued into looking at a book on the screen. So it could have been much more, you know, be much more playful in a way, and then still have the obligatory stuff.
Yeah.
But very thorough, very thorough. Covered all the bases.
Yeah, it was a good job.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's always flawed. You know, student presentations, we always find something. But it's a good effort at this point in time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you give me on the 9th.
But, you know, there's something about, you gotta understand about responsibility, okay? You guys took it to another level with the video, okay? That's great, but it doesn't alleviate the fact that you then have to really make that work, okay? My best friend in school decided one term that he wasn't going to draw a straight line the whole term. And every building he did was curved, and, you know, and that's really hard to do for some of the building types we were given. And this is kind of like one of those things like, when I worked hard, you know. And at the end of the term, he got a B. And he went to the professor and he said, don't I get any credit for not drawing a straight line? And, you know, and I took such a chance. And the professor said something quite interesting. He said, yeah, but that also is when you do that, you're obliged then to make sure it works out rather than just do curves. Okay? So that's kind of in that same vein as what you do. So what are you going to do now?
So I was saying, well, I have the slides in case there's like a breakdown of any questions I could, refer to it, because I don't want to be recast specifically.
So you're not going to redo the whole thing, so it's like, things moving around?
Well, you want to be, whenever you do something like this, you want to make sure it's not a substitute for content. That it's not like a snow job where you're trying to, compensate for something that isn't there by putting out a good show. And I don't think you did that, but that's something we always suspect when it's overproduced or too much effort put into the presentation of it rather than the content of it. So that's something to watch out for in the future. I don't, do you have, anybody in the class want to ask anything or respond or comment on their presentation? No? Come on, you have opinions, I know you do.
I want to ask one, how did you guys get to the form, the actual, when you got to the form of the building? You had one final solution. Could you explain how you got to that?
And what did that represent, your circular thing? Was that the building?
It's pretty much a building. We kind of.
Wrong answer.
It's the space planning that we came up with the idea that, basically like a bubble diagram, the space next to this, and, we talked about why does the space need to be next to this space. So we broke that all down, we didn't show the process, we came out with this.
But never make a bubble diagram look like a building.
Yeah.
When you're doing architecture, not trying to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're not getting paid to do architecture yet. You're trying to get the job to do architecture. The other thing you're doing, and this is really important, is you're setting yourself up. That's going to be the building no matter what. Okay? Somebody falls in love with that, the dean of the school, or the president, or the CEO of the company, and you all of a sudden start designing and realize that's not the best form or shape or relationship, and they want to know, well, what happened to that? You know, we hired you because of that. So you got to be really careful. You don't do architecture until you're getting paid to do architecture.
Well, there's an exception to that. If the process that you're signing up for, that you all have negotiated, includes a conceptual BIM model in the midst of doing programming, so that you evaluate that BIM model and it gives you a lot more feedback, and then you continue programming. But the BIM model changes. It's not one static thing. It evolves, and it's still abstract.
So the way you do that is not to be beholden to that, is you show that a series of schematic BIM models. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And you also show how smart you are as to showing the pros and cons of each of those. And what that also does is gets the client involved in helping to make decisions. Because when you do that, things surface that didn't come out in discussions and whatnot. And so the client says, yeah, I want that, okay? And you have them, they sign off on that. What that does is also, let's say that somewhere down the line, some part of that didn't work out too well. Well, because the client was part of that decision-making process, it helps to lower your liability, in a way. I mean, you're completely unliable, but it helps to reduce your profile. So it's always important to get the client involved in the discussion and in the process. That's very critical, and that's why you show alternatives. That's a very important part of early design, to show alternatives, because things, like I said, things surface. You find out stuff when there's something concrete or visual that stimulates the client to understand not only what they want, but what they don't want. Okay? So that's really critical.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left, and we're not having class again. And remember, you're handing in your hard copy program for the building sometime between now and the 9th, the morning of the 9th, and include a digital version of your whole process, the things you've been presenting in these progress reports and so on. And what I'll try to do, better than I've done so far this semester, is give you feedback. Because I think that's, what you deserve. You deserve more feedback on what you finally give me. And, yeah, I know, but there's only 17. If it was 27 students,
I would say you until the first day of classes.
So, take a look at that, take it to heart, and I'm going to see some of you in class next semester in the technology of enclosed buildings, and so I hope we can continue some of the themes and some of the discussion that we've had here. It's a different class, but there are some similarities. There's some overlap. Does anybody,
I have just sort of a logistical question. The digital submission, would you like that actually in like a CD format that we turn into hard copy, or would you like us to upload it to the file exchange? What's best for you?
If you don't mind, I prefer a CD.
Okay.
Does everybody still have a CD? Yeah.
And we can just submit that with the hard copy.
Yeah, just
okay.
With the hard copy. Okay. I hope what you got from this semester is maybe a different notion about what programming and pre-design is all about, that it's not just coming up with a list of spaces, that it's much more involved, it's much trickier, there are many, many different aspects to it, and the whole question of programming and what is it and who should do it and when should it occur is still an open question, and there are different opinions. Some people really believe that the architect should be the programmer and there should be nobody called the programmer. Other people think they need to be very different people with very different skill sets, and the programmer finishes and then they hand it over to the architect does his thing. There's also you know, and we talked about this previously in class, there's also the notion that it's a back and forth kind of an activity where the program evolves as the design is evolving, and it's hand to hand kind of with the programmer and architect almost working as a team. And then there's the whole aspect of sort of current ideas about integrated team design, where you bring everybody on board, you're all working with the same BIM model, and you're all working in some sort of new arrangement that I'm not sure has been worked out in terms of legalities and accountability and so on and so forth, and who's supposed to be in charge, and how there's a lot of things happening right now within practice that are going to influence this whole thing that haven't been sorted out. The legal contractual arrangements aren't very clear, and so on.
And then philosophically, a lot of folks that think that the problem with our built environment is it is programmed. That there's too much that creates a static vision of the world.
Yeah, we went through this whole period, we talked about this earlier, where programming was part of this whole rational view of the world, and it was about function, and the buildings ended up being very lifeless, sort of glass and steel boxes that people hated because they met the program. But they met only that type of program. They didn't meet the human sort of need for meaning and the human need for continuity in history, and they didn't meet all those other things. Because we simplified the whole process down to that simple idea that the programming is about function, and function is what drives the design.
Yeah, space proximity, all that.
Yeah.
Without really getting involved in, you know, what is a school of architecture? What is a school? You know, how do people learn? When you design the school, yeah, this is next to that. Why? Because that's how we've always done it. Versus really being a part of the question as to why you're doing something and what the purpose is. So that's the part of programming that, again, is sort of a historic part that really lived about 20, 30 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a discrete piece of time,
And it's still prevalent in places like Tallahassee, where the practices are back in the 20th century, and you know.
Well, it's also driven a lot by the legal system and what the responsibilities are. If you really want to see some interesting ideas about how to do a program from the get-go, where the architect is the programmer, I'm not certain how much of it is online, but Charles Moore did a number of churches and things where he sort of did what Pena, what's his first name? Willie Pena, yeah. Used to do in terms of go squat. You know, you go to a place, you sit down with the folks that are going to use it, and you have all these workshops, and you have these brown paper things, and you figure out what's important, what's not important, and you talk to all of the folks that are going to use the building. The problem with school building, with the university, is that there's formulas. This is how big this should be. This is how big that should be. And you're meeting with what's called the owner, which is the university administration, versus the user, who is the school of architecture. So
yeah. We've been through that a couple of times.
Okay.
Well, we have, you and I.
Oh, yeah.
For this building.
In both iterations.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, folks. Yeah, come on.
Charles Moore.
Charles Moore.
Yeah.
He came here. He was a part of our lecture series, and we spent time with him.
Yeah,
he liked our school. He wanted to come here. So.
Yeah. He's a very interesting guy. And a number of our old retired faculty were involved with him in various points in time. But I think it was a church that he did, and he did a few things like that. This one church, I believe, is really documented. And they would build little models, little study models and stuff right there, and then get feedback immediately.
That was part of a whole movement, participatory design,
Yeah.
where you would get everybody together and everybody gets involved in designing. And it was very interesting. It never really became mainstream. I think there are a lot kinds of practical issues.